I'm Amy Dolan, and this is the Feeding People podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Feeding People podcast. I'm Amy Dolan, your host, and I'm so glad to be with you today for a very special edition of this podcast episode. As always, you can listen to this show on Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the places where you listen to podcasts. And always, we appreciate when you rate and review the show. That helps us, especially in the second season, really get the word out about what we're trying to do here. So thank you always for listening. Today is a very special episode. I do realize that I say that every single episode, but this one, I really mean it, is a special episode. This is our first one not recording at our kitchen table in Chicago. We have left the city of Chicago. I knew nobody ever thought this day would come, but we're actually out of the city. We're in my favorite second town to Chicago, New Buffalo, Michigan, and we are at our favorite deli and coffee shop in the heart of downtown New Buffalo with the owners of David's Delicatessen and Coffee, Joe, Lindsay, and Emma Brewster. Welcome.
Thanks, Amy, for having us.
It's so good to have you today. This feels like, seriously, the most special experience that we're like in David's while it's closed. Like the minute I tell my nieces that we were here while it was closed, I'm just like, my aunt status is just going to rise like 10 notches. They'll be like, tell us everything.
Well, you're welcome.
What was it like?
It's the same as when it's open. It's just 15 degrees cooler.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much for doing this. New Buffalo is such a special town to my family. My grandparents had a summer home in the town right next to New Buffalo, and my mom came here growing up. I came here as a young kid, and now we come here every summer with the 20 people in our family, and we stay in a big house all together. And that's what's happening for us this week. It's like our beach house vacation week, and we always come to David's all the time. We love it. My nieces talk about getting the peach Izzy's. That's like their special thing. Also, they're not allowed to eat white bread normally, and so when they come to David's, they actually get a treat, and they get a sandwich with white bread,
Delicious.
Which is just like basically Christmas. So this place is very special, and I'm just so thrilled to have you both here. How would you introduce yourselves?
So I'm Emma Brewster, and
I'm Joe Lindsay.
we own David's Deli in downtown New Buffalo. Our full name is David's Delicatessen and Coffee, and we've this is our 10th summer owning the business.
Wow.
And just over a year ago, we also opened the False Front, which is in the same building. It's an after-hours bar, so we switch over and do that transition. I'm not a native Midwesterner. I'm a transplant. I'm originally from the Seattle area, but met Joe when we both went to college in Massachusetts.
Oh, and I'm Joe. I'm a sandwich enthusiast. I am a native Midwesterner and a proud Midwesterner as well. Sandwich enthusiast. I also really like ranch dressing.
Oh, that's you. Do you like to be known for that?
No.
No.
I just do.
Do you make
He's
your
from
own
the
ranch?
Midwest.
I feel like you got to show your Midwestern bona fides, and I feel like there's no better way to do that than being a voracious consumer of ranch. And yeah, we do make our own ranch
Okay,
dressing.
so what is the key to a great ranch dressing?
Well, so let me back up a little bit. We get ranch powder from Terra Spice, which is actually a Midwestern spice company. They're located in South Bend. So all of the secrets to ranch dressing are known by Terra Spice and Terra Spice only.
Okay.
My job is to mix it with mayonnaise, sour cream, and whole milk, which is again real easy for me. I'm also a dairy guy as well.
Yeah. I love it. But it's the key. The key is in the spice. That's
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Well, I mean, ranch does make everything better. I feel like that's just like a common thing, right? We all know that. So tell us a little bit about how you got here. Like, how was this your 10th summer at David's?
So we met when we were in college in Massachusetts. We went to a little school called Hampshire College, which is a very liberal arts school. You make up your own major, you do your own thing. It's all super self-directed. So my undergrad studies, I usually describe as food studies. I took a lot of classes in anthropology and public health and economics, and then wrote all my papers about the food system from a big scale, like agricultural policy, to like small scale. Where do you shop? How do you make dinner?
Yeah.
What are you eating? And so following my graduation, I got an AmeriCorps position in New York City. And this is in 2009, so right in the very beginning of the recession. So this is actually a thanks Obama moment. Yes. There was a lot of extra AmeriCorps positions created to kind of help people graduating into this major recession find some sort of foothold. And so I ended up at an organization called Just Food, and that worked to connect city residents with upstate farmers through food banks, through farmers markets, through CSA programs. And my role there was part of the community food education team. So once you get that vegetable in your hand, however you acquired it, what do you do? So when we got the opportunity to buy David's, it was kind of a natural progression for me from thinking about how do you connect, what's growing to what you eat. But that all came through Joe.
Yeah, so I think a lot less like, I feel like useful or like me. Yeah, like I'm from outside Chicago. My family, like Amy, has come up here during the summers. After my second summer of college, I decided I didn't want to live in the city anymore, and so I wanted to live in New Buffalo. So I just kind of walked up and down Whitaker Street, which is the main drag here in town. I just put in a bunch of applications, and I got hired at David's about a month after they opened. It was run by a father and son. David is the son. He's actually a school teacher in Cicero. Teaches freshman English, remedial freshman English. So interesting guy to begin with. And his dad, Frank, is the owner of the building, and they had always wanted to run a business together. They figured David could run it in the summer, and then the winter they could find a manager. So I got hired here as my first food service job. Really liked it. Liked dealing with the people. Liked eating the food. And so, like, every summer I just kept coming back. I would finish school, come back. I graduated, had nothing really cooking. Came back.
Pun intended?
Yeah, pun intended. Came back for that summer. And I worked the summer, and then, like, in September, October, Frank and David told me that I couldn't come back anymore, that I had to find what it was that I wanted to do, and I should go out and do it. So, thankfully, Emma had gotten this job in New York, so we moved to New York City. My degree was in creative writing, so I did a little bit of that, but it was just really hard to get anyone to pay you to do it. A lot of like unpaid internships that would stack upon unpaid internships. So I got a job at a bakery and a cafe. Same thing, really liked it. It was like shortly after they had opened, and it was just fun to be a part of that. And so I was like, this is kind of what I want to do. And Em and I always kind of like talked a little bit about maybe someday we would run a food business together.
I come from a family. My parents own a bookstore, an independent bookstore outside of Seattle, and so I grew up. Well, they bought it when I was maybe 12 or 13. So I came of age working in a small business, and always thought it was a cool thing that they did, and cool to be part of the community. I mean, bookstores are very much community centering spaces, and so are coffee shops and all those.
So it was always sort of like a 10-year plan for us. Like it's like, okay, well, we'll work a bunch, we'll start saving money, and then maybe we'll be able to do this someday. So I came back to Chicago in February of that year for my mom's birthday party, and we met with Frank and David just to say hello. And I said, you guys told me I had to, I figure what I want to do. I want to own a restaurant someday. So don't ever sell David's without calling me.
Yeah.
And I was like, totally joking. We thought, all right. And then like 2 weeks later, David called and he was like, hey, we're selling David's and we want to sell it to you. And I was like, okay. So he flew out. He was like, he wanted to meet with us, go over how everything would work. He was like, we understand you have no money because we've been paying you.
He's like, I see your checks.
Yeah, which I always like we pay markedly better than they used to here too. Quick aside.
FYI.
Yeah. Times have changed, but not that much.
And you're hiring.
Yeah, exactly. And we're hiring. No, so it was kind of like went over how everything was going to work. And
they proposed it as a seller finance deal because they said, you don't have any money, do you?
Yeah,
like,
they first wanted to make sure that we did. Yeah.
They really, really wanted you, though.
Yeah,
that's what
and so they were
important.
able to work with us to make it possible. At this point, if we walked into a bank, we would have been laughed out of town.
Course, right.
And so without them being willing to take a go at it, we wouldn't have had the chance. And for
That's
us, it felt like the
amazing.
right time. It was like we could either just keep working,
Yeah.
and then if we have enough money, we can do it. But, you know, we might have like other world responsibilities at that point. Right now, it's just us. Like, if we fail, we'll be like,
Yeah.
you know, mid-20s in a bunch of debt, just like all of our peers.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
No problem.
It felt like
time to recover.
It felt
Yeah.
like a really risky decision, but like like the right time in our lives for a really
Yeah.
risky decision. So I put in my 2 weeks notice at the bakery, and Emma was finished out her like stint with AmeriCorps. So I worked 2 weeks. I got picked up at the airport by Frank, the owner. He drove me to Restaurant Depot on Goose Island.
Oh my gosh.
We filled the car with stuff, and we came here and we opened David's the next day. Like,
So
with me
wait,
as the owner.
how much time was there between like him calling and saying
Like
we're
maybe
gonna
a
sell
month.
and you?
We were hoping. I was really hoping to I was hoping June maybe, or like late May.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, you have a sign in the window that says you're opening on April 17th." I was
Oh
like, all right.
my gosh.
So take the sign down.
right, step one.
No, but and it's just crazy. Like, it was just a total kind of like 180. The bakery I was working at was in Soho in New York City, so it was a tiny little like hole in the wall, and it was on pace to do like $1 million in sales, which is quite a bit for this, like no seating, no nothing, just selling pastries. And going from like that to like literally the next day, New Buffalo in April. Like tumbleweeds blowing down the street, like not a soul in sight. Just like, what have I done with my life?
Right.
And I didn't tell Emma that, because I was like, well, she's still there. She's never going to come if she sees what it looks like here right now. So that's kind of how we started. And we figured like the one thing we thought we could offer New Buffalo was the fact that we were young and we didn't really have any idea what we were doing. And we just kind of thought that like we just had time. So it's like our whole thing is we're just going to stand here. We're going to set our hours. These are going to be our hours, and we're going to stand here for the entire time. And whenever anyone comes in, we're going to provide them the thing we say we're going to and send them on their way.
Wow.
So that first summer, it was like, all right, we're just going to run this how it's always been run, because at the very least, we know it's going to work.
Yes.
Which I think is really nice, because
Yeah.
it took a ton of pressure off of us to make a first impression.
Yeah.
So
Of
we were able to
course.
change things really, really slowly. Whereas I think
Yes.
if we had opened, and we are so much better small business owners now than we
Right.
were when we started. I think if we had opened a new space, we would have been eaten alive. So after the first summer, it was like, we used to get our baked goods from a bakery in Stevensville. We still get all of our bread from there, bit of Swiss bakery. But we used to get pastries, and it was kind of like they were expensive, which meant we had to charge a little bit more. So then,
And you had to order in advance, you know,
Yes.
and if you
Right.
if it forecast changed and you're like, all right, no one's coming, it's too late, your pastries.
So that was kind of
Right.
the first thing. We thought, okay, well, we'll start doing this in house. So
we started making recipes, and
Yeah.
you know, some of them we found, some of them
Yeah.
came to us. Like our scone recipe, our original scone recipe
It is Kelly's absolute favorite scone in the whole world.
so you have to,
this recipe is from a customer of my mom's at the Edmonds bookshop. She would come
Wow.
in on Saturday mornings and bring us pastries, just because she liked us and liked baking. So Lynn Epnet would bring these fabulous baked goods, and so it's Lynn Epnet's scone recipe, you know, via my
Oh my
mom's bookstore.
gosh.
Now it's
Oh my gosh.
here, you know, in New Buffalo.
That's incredible.
So, yeah, some of them have great
Yeah.
backstories like that.
Yeah.
Some of them are just like, oh, this looks good, let's try this.
Let's
Oh,
get it.
yep, this is a keeper.
Yeah.
We'll
It's
keep
like,
that.
I mean, like I'm a very spiritual person, so I look at like the world that way, but it just feels like this was always meant to be. That like the opportunity that Frank and David gave you, the way that it came about, the way that you've like transformed it and made it your own, just feels like this is what was supposed to happen in the world at this time. And like this community is better because you're leading it and doing it and giving it what you've got. Do you feel that way?
I don't think I feel quite as like as it's
Yeah.
meant to be, but that what kind of lucky opportunity.
Yes.
And,
right.
And like the payoff of saying yes to a risk.
Oh, I love that.
To jumping in and just going.
And I mean, Emma mentioned like the time like that this all came out. So 2008, 2009, I think we were in a recession.
We opened in 2010.
I think so. A lot of people were looking outside the box and trying to do things that maybe weren't like traditional career paths, and especially in food, I think benefited a ton from that because we sort of feel like, especially up here, and I think this is all across the country, like kind of a wave of new food businesses popping up and customers like consciously choosing things that are a little bit more old-fashioned or a little bit more mom and pop. So I mean, I don't know how many of you are familiar with New Buffalo or Harbor Country, this area of Southwest Michigan, but after we took over, Journeyman Distillery opened in Three Oaks. Greenbush Brewery opened the next year. We had two friends who ran this really amazing meat shop in New Buffalo called Local. They've since moved to Patelli's Pizza in Three Oaks. Grainer Farm, an organic farm, opened.
They beat us, actually.
They beat us, yeah. But so we feel like we were just part of this wave that kind of happened. And it was great, like coming up with those people because we could all like sit around and complain together, which is really all you want to do.
People taking risks and this is such a cool area for a food business because it's, I mean, Michigan, before there was California, like Michigan fed, most of the country. And as the country grew, they found California or, took California or however. Yeah. we
could say took.
And it's just a super diverse, fertile agricultural area. Fruit does really well here, vegetables, like everything. Yeah. And so it was, as we kind of put our stamp on David's, all these other places were starting to grow and we could start kind of connecting and tapping into the farms in this area and bringing them in. And, we started like way back when we did, we were kind of known for our Reubens to this day, but we sort of started adding local flavor by a farmer's Reuben, which was one sandwich we would do in the style of a Reuben featuring local produce. Now we have a menu of 3 sandwich specials that change all the time, and that's where you'll find our local producers highlighted and featured. But, now we're doing 3 sandwiches, and one of them is always vegan. Yes. So there's something for everyone to try. And
it's great. I mean, like, the farmers are so happy about it, too. Like, they sell at the Green City Market, but one of the oldest farms up here, they're actually in LaPorte, Indiana, is Iron Creek Organic Farms. And they grow amazing produce, and they've been doing it for so long. Before growing organic was cool, they were growing organic. And I remember one of the first times we ordered from them, they delivered, and I was like, thank you so much for coming and like doing this. And they were just like, this is the dream. Like we would love we would love to sell to all the people in our neighborhood. It's just like for a long time, the only place they could sell was in Chicago. Yeah.
Well, and it's a really valuable market too. It makes it so that it's sustainable. You know, this is a super seasonal area, but our farmers have a huge market in Chicago. So they're, happy to make local deliveries, but that also helps support a vibrant economy up here. Yes. To know that there's that kind of engaged consumer just around the corner.
Just right there.
And a lot of them.
I love that. What would you say so we're becoming more and more conscious to where our food is coming from and trying to be connected in Chicago specifically to farmers markets near us and all that. We're just learning. Yeah. And this summer especially, we've been trying really hard to eat locally. So we go to the market in Woodlawn and on Saturday mornings, and we cook the produce that week that we get there. And we've had so much asparagus this last month. It's been amazing. The farmer told us last week asparagus season was over. We're like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Yes. Get ready for zucchini.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just like summer's the best, right? Yeah. So what would you say to someone like us and like other listeners who really do want to be like connected to seasons and farmers markets in their area and things like that, but maybe don't know as much as you? Like, how do you even have the produce you need and support farmers and eat well and enjoy your food?
So I think probably the way I learned really to cook in college, we our school was set up so most people lived on campus, but as you got older, you mostly moved into on-campus apartments. We also had an on-campus farm that, students worked on, but also produced a CSA, which is community-supported agriculture. You buy essentially a share of the farm so that every week you get a basket or whatever of vegetables, whatever the harvest is. You pay it up front, so it takes some of the risk off the farmer. They have their upfront cash to buy their seeds and their fertilizer and their fix the tractor that broke since last year and all that sort of stuff. And then if they have a really, if there's a hailstorm and it wipes out all their tomatoes, you're going to take the loss with them. You're not going to get tomatoes, but they'll figure something else out. Whatever they have, you'll get. So anyway, we bought one of these CSA shares as a mod, as an apartment, call them mods. But that's how I learned how to cook a lot of my vegetables. We would get it. We'd open our Fanny Farmer cookbook and be like, all right, what do you do with kohlrabi? Kohlrabi au gratin. All right, what do you do with zucchini? Zucchini au gratin. And that was her answer to everything. Fanny was just like, yeah, cook it with cheese. And we're like, all right, great. We'll just cook it with cheese. Check. But that was, for me, that was kind of how I started getting my feet wet in the seasonal thing. And it's, as someone who's always loved cooking, it was kind of like a creative cooking challenge. I think it could be intimidating if you weren't as comfortable in the kitchen, but for me, it was a way to be like, I knew I could just throw it in pasta if I was really nervous or pressed for time or like didn't care. Be good.
It's funny, like Emma loves cooking, and Emma's always loved cooking, and she's always been a great cook, and I didn't do any cooking at all, like none. And so like it's just really funny, like our roles at David's now, it's like I do most of the cooking, and so I'm with you, like I had to learn. I think like it's just practice, like as you get more and more comfortable, it's easier and easier to do. Like there's no, like there aren't any secrets. Like people often ask us like, oh, well, what's your secret? It's like, it's not like, it's just like, or like we'll have several recipes that will just switch, like depending. So like, for example, like you had mentioned asparagus. Like, so our favorite way to cook asparagus is, asparagus, olive oil, salt, lemon juice, toss it all together, add a little pesto, toss it again, put it on a pan and roast it. So it's like if you love pesto, boom, you got pesto asparagus. They're going to be tasty. So asparagus season is done. It's zucchini season. Zucchini, chop it up, put it in a bowl, olive oil, lemon juice, pesto, salt, toss it up, roast it, boom. You got the same, it's like the same dish basically, just kind of different. So like as you get more and more comfortable, it's just get easier and easier to like do. And then you can change it up. Like, so maybe you have a pesto that you use different herbs in, or maybe you add some Middle Eastern seasonings to, or maybe it's like, I don't think anything really changes. It's just like, it's kind of like a Mr. Potato Head situation. Like, and it happens to be a potato too. So you just change out the, like, if you just change some of the things on the surface, it's really.
As long as you add eyes and a hat to your potato, you're fine.
A little bit of salt.
It's salt. As long as salt is part of it, you should be all right.
I love that. It's so great. We have, so many of our listeners are like just starting to like explore food. And so often people feel like not confident in the kitchen, right? Like there are secrets that like, wait, if I don't know or follow the recipe perfectly, I'm like a creative cook in the kitchen. It's such a creative outlet for me. So I couldn't follow a recipe if I tried. But it's about like figuring out what's in season, figuring out what you like, what your tastes are, what your friends and family tastes are, and then making something from love and creativity, right?
Right. And honestly, like if you're going to the farmer's market, ask the farmers. Like they cook all that stuff too. And they want you to buy more of it. So they're very invested in you, like
learning how to do it.
Going home and making something delicious.
I love that.
And I think kind of adding on to that is just to go for it. Since we moved up here, we made friends with people who were, trained chefs. And in the beginning, I would be a little bit nervous to have them over to dinner. And, it's like, this is his profession, and I'm just like a baker at a coffee shop. But it doesn't matter. If you invite someone over to dinner, they're there to like enjoy a meal with you and have a conversation and just hang out. And it's okay to take risks on anybody, even people who, you think might have I love it when people make me dinner.
Absolutely.
Like, keep that in mind. If you have people over and you're making them dinner, like, what an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Who cares what it tastes like, really?
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
My mom always gets stressed out, like cooking for us. She's always like, "Is this gonna be good? Should I add a little bit? Should I do this?" Like,
It'll be better if I don't answer any questions. I'm just gonna show up and eat dinner.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invitation.
Right,
exactly.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to talk about feeding people and how you feed people here at the deli. In the summer when we're here, there's like a line out the door for coffee and your sandwiches and bagels and everything in the morning. So obviously, like, this is the tourist destination, right? And then also when we're here in the dead of winter, we'll drive up for just like a day or weekend in like November, and it's just us and then like the locals,
right.
people who live here. It's like the regular spot to come also. So what does it mean to you to feed like both groups of people? Like feeding tourists who, you're going to make like this beautiful, perfect sandwich and scone for and never see again. And then also like cooking for the people who come every single day, who have their favorites. Like what does that mean to you?
For me, I think it's both kind of creating a sense of community, whether you're here for the day or you live here year round. We want you to come in and have the chance to experience a welcoming place. When the line is out the door, I don't always tell you what farm the zucchini on the sandwich you ordered came from, but I could. Yeah. And, it's an opportunity to sort of tap into what's going on around here. But also, it was important to us that it not be in an inaccessible way. Like, we want our price points to be comfortable for people who live here year round, can pop in and get something.
Who tend to be a little bit more blue collar than some of our tourists.
And, still be able to have a great dining. I mean, I think this goes back to what you were saying about the Great Recession hitting, and it's like people couldn't afford to fine dine anymore. Yeah. So
we actually, the first thing we did, we were idiot business people. The first thing we did when we took over David's was lower the prices. That was the first thing we did, which was like, I don't think you would ever do that. Like, if you've got something that's working at a certain price point, why would you do that? But it was like, we need to make this accessible. We want this to be accessible for everybody who lives here. Yeah, and we want it to be authentic, right? Like, so this is available nowhere else in the world. The only place you can eat David's food is at David's. And so that is an essential part becomes an essential part of the fabric of the place. And that's cool. And I think even further than that, like working with all these local farms, everything like that just adds to that. Like, this is this cannot be replicated. Like, even if you had everything, even if we had a cookbook, you still couldn't do it because, this or this.
But you could still cook and bring people together and have that, not that we want you to come here and buy our food, full disclosure. Come on up, see us anytime. But like the sense of community and the sense of like, I think that's what drew me to food studies in the first place, and like thinking about food in like an academic sense was really just that it's like something we all have in common.
Yes.
Everybody's got to eat.
Yes.
And because of that, it just kind of opens the door to conversations and experiences with anybody, because everybody's got to eat.
Yeah. And we really worked hard, like, to win over the locals. Like, that was also something that, like, we really wanted to do, and we weren't sure we were going to be able to. And a lot of it goes back to, like, the strategy of just, like, being here, like, being available, being there for them. They, like, see that and respect that, and, like, that's, you just become a part of their lives because they know they can trust you to be there. And they can trust you that they're going to get the value or their experience the same way every morning. Because with tourism, like, New Buffalo's so busy that you could, I once on a news, she's hitting me again. She knows me tell the story. I once on a news report said that I could sell poop on a stick out of David's at 4th of July, and I looked over at Emma's face as it just falls. Like,
oh my gosh.
But I really do. I think, like, there's so many people here. You could sell anything. It's more important. I think it's harder to sell something when there's not a bunch of people here.
I love that. And I love even just that was your priority to begin with. Yeah. Right. That if you knew the tougher customer was the local, and so that's who you were going to create the experience for also. Yeah. I feel like that's very rare.
And we can't be locals, apparently. The only way you can be a bona fide, like, New Buffalo local is if you have a diploma from the New Buffalo high school. Okay. So we're really working on, like, our, like, 10-year plan now. It's like make a bunch of money and then donate it to the school so that we can get some sort of honorary diploma.
Your name on the gym or something.
So honorary diploma, and then we're official. We have Michigan plates, Michigan licenses.
No.
You know, we vote
10
here,
years
but no,
of a business.
not good enough for them.
That's great. So we were here in March for the corned beef off. What year was this for that event?
This was the 9th annual.
9th annual. Wow. Okay. So this was only, why have we not come, Kelly? Okay. I'm sorry we didn't come sooner, but this was our first year. Now we know. And we're telling everyone. Yeah. So it was great too. It was such a spontaneous thing. Kelly's very Irish. Kelly Dolan here. And, we never do anything for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. And like we woke up that day and we're like, we should do something. I think David's is having something.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So we like got in the car. It was so fun. And we were maybe like 2 or 3 weeks vegan. Yeah. I think we were like 3 weeks vegan and we're like, this is hilarious. This is our first year ever going to the corned beef off. This is going to be fine. They said there were potatoes also. We'll be fine. But then you had like 3 varieties of vegan corned beef that were delicious. We had beer. I mean, we sat like right over here and it was just, it was.
Oh, you sat, lucky ducks.
Right. I think we came late. It was like maybe after lunch or something. But it was just the most lovely experience. It felt like all locals. I don't know if that is how it is or not, but it seemed like
a lot of his family.
I'm also
family.
Irish, so I think about 100 of the people here are my relatives. But yeah.
I mean, it was just like it was a different experience than coming when it's full in the summer.
Yeah.
It was like everyone knew each other. Yeah. You were walking around with a plate of corned beef.
Yeah.
You were making sure everyone was fine, and it was just like it's like in my heart what I want to do with my life. Like I just want to be creating experiences where people have so much food and there's so much love and everyone's talking, and we were just so moved by that whole experience.
It's cool. We it kind of came out of nowhere for us. We were going to be open. It was St. Patrick's Day. I'm like, well, we need to do something. We feel like people are going to want to eat corned beef.
And we are a deli, which is
so we have it.
You have it.
So I was like, all right, well, we should probably meet like fire with fire here. So we just, I don't know whose idea it was or like where we even came up with the idea.
Emma's it was my idea.
No, we like a good off. Like we like I don't know. Like I like getting things together and tasting a bunch of things, or like doing a bunch of things and being like, okay, this one was my favorite because of this reason, or I like this.
Yeah,
and
you like had
this.
A whole voting sheet.
Yeah, so it's kind of evolved. So like that first year, I think we maybe had like 50 people, if that.
Yeah, and like I think we had 3 or 4 different kinds of corned beef. And the night before, we were sitting in the basement, just being like, oh my god, what are we gonna do?
Looking in this refrigerator.
There's so much beef. No one's going to eat it.
And
they did.
And it ended up being kind of successful. And so we just kept doing it again and again and again. And as we've grown and evolved, like we've started making more and more connections. And so it just starts becoming a bigger and bigger thing. So now, I mean, we have like... we have 19 or 20 different kinds of corned beef.
Oh my gosh.
And we get them from all over the place. Chicago, Detroit. We get brisket shipped in from New York City. Actually, this is the first year we did not have the New York City one.
Our New York connection retired this year. So
all
time,
the sauces,
the mustards are fun. Yeah,
mustards.
We have a cook, George, and that time of year is a fairly fallow period for us here because we're not growing anything. We do a lot of preserving, so
you know, a lot of our sandwich making at that time is like pulling stuff out of the freezer or opening jars of pickles.
Yep.
So we're still using.
But George is still on payroll, so I got to have something for him to do. So I want him to stop talking to me. So it's like, okay, here, can you just make me like a bunch of different mustards and we'll just put them out. And so it's really fun. And we've learned a ton about the history of this like really unique food. Like, so I think we had mentioned like Irish heritage and we're eating it on St. Patrick's Day. I'm Irish. I love corned beef, because I used to always have it on St. Patrick's Day. But like actually the real thing is corned beef has literally nothing to do with actual Irish people. If you're in Ireland, they don't know what you're talking about. They think it's like a tin that you'd get on like a shelf. Like, why are you eating tinned meat? But it's a part of the Irish American diaspora. So it's like very much an Irish American thing. So when the Irish were coming to this country, they were settling in New York City neighborhoods next to a lot of Jewish communities. And so in Ireland, if you were like eating a celebratory meal, it would be bacon. Like rashers would kind of be their thing. So at the time, pigs were really prohibitively expensive. So they like saw their Jewish neighbors doing a similar treatment to these cuts of beef, which were markedly cheaper.
Yeah.
So they were just like, "What are you doing?" It's like explained it. It's pickled cow's chest, basically brisket.
Yeah.
So that kind of got wrapped up into like a celebratory thing for Irish Americans. So it's funny, like it's actually more Jewish than it is Irish. But I think this is for us like so cool is like the coming together of cultures and like how food is such a great way of getting people to come together and how you borrow from the people you're with. So so that's the corned beef history. And so as a result, we know just about every corned beef producer in the Midwest, I think.
Oh my gosh. Right.
We visited a lot of facilities. So I drive, like, because a lot of them don't ship or like it's hard to ship. So like we'll do generally like 2 runs. Like Emma will do the run to Detroit and I'll do a run to Chicago. And we have a Pontiac Vibe that we literally fill.
Yeah, we've got coolers all in the back, and just every stop we throw some more brisket in. And so it's like I think we end up with about 300 or 400 pounds of corned beef by the time we're done. We cook it all. We prefer it raw.
Yeah.
Because we
pick it up from the producers,
we can cook it in house, and it tastes better that way. And then we let people vote, and every year. So last year there were 19. Every single brisket received at least one first place vote, which I think is really awesome and speaks to like the wide range of opinions people have about their pickled meat.
It shows there's no one right answer.
Right.
We came to a consensus around one. One got more votes, but everyone has their own tastes. And
affirmation to you guys for picking all number 1 meats.
Right. Yeah,
yes. You're welcome. So it's kind of become this thing. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. We love to do it. And we really love to take the day off afterwards.
I'm sure. Well, it's so beautiful. Like just the community and the way people were interacting was so lovely around meat.
Awesome.
And fake meat.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
So as you guys look to the future, I mean, what do you hope? What are your dreams for David's in the next 10 years? Like, what do you hope this place will be? More of the same, or what are your dreams?
I think we are more of the same. I think we are.
Well, yeah, and it's like, I mean, I think success in a tourist community is like multi-generational. Mm-hmm. So you want to be able to provide the same experience like over and over and over again. So like if you look like for us, like the real like pillars of the business community, the food community here in New Buffalo are Redimax and Oinks, Rosie's. Some of these places have been here like 20, 30 years, which is crazy.
Yeah.
To be able to do that would be pretty cool. We close in January for like, it depends, usually like 2 weeks, something like that. And we go on vacation. And we were in Ireland this year. We were in Dublin and we were hanging out at this bar called the Long Haul that was celebrating its 250th anniversary.
Wow.
And so we came back to the False Front, which is our bar here, and we told Abby, the bar manager, that, if we could make it 250 years, we would think like, okay, success. Like,
yeah.
So we got a long way to go for that one. We made it a year. So.
Yeah. I just love that. I love that dream. I feel like you don't often hear that with entrepreneurs or small business owners. It's always about like the next big thing or opening their next thing. And I just love like your posture of like, we're going to stand still. Like we're going to be here every day for people. That's so important. It's beautiful.
We'd love it if maybe someone else was here every day for people. I think that's like another big thing is like just like work.
2 days off would be great.
Yeah, 2 days consecutively off together would be really great. 10 years we get 1 day off together sometimes.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, just like a work-life balance, like managing work-life balance. Like, and it used to be that we would make decisions. Like when we first started, it was we would make decisions. I think we make decisions differently now.
Yeah,
like
you have time and you have money. And in the beginning, we had more time than we had money. And now we are learning to value our time closer to how we value our money. And so we're more willing to pay for delivery, even if it's more expensive than driving there, because that's 3 or 4 hours out of our day that
That's like
we
3 or
could be
4
doing
hours that
something
Joe
else.
could be sitting on the couch, and like that's like
Yes.
I'm like I don't want to mess with that.
Right, of course. All right, I want to do a quick lightning round to end our time together. This has been so nice. I have a million more questions, so we're going to have to do a second podcast. Tell me the best meal you've ever had.
I think I'm going to go for the best nostalgic meal I've
Yes,
ever had,
yes.
which is my family's Christmas breakfast. We eat roast chicken and stuffing and raisin bread. This is what I grew up eating in Seattle as the granddaughter of an Iowa farm girl who moved out to Seattle. And so that's when my family, I was born in Seattle. I lived most of my young life in Seattle, but we also spent some time in Massachusetts, in Boston, when I was in like elementary school. And so that's what my mom, as she was missing her family, that's what she'd make, and now that's what I would make, except I've been lucky enough to go home for it and have it made by my grandma for the last several years. But yeah, that's got to be top.
Yeah.
One of the tops for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I have one. I really like oysters a lot, which is like weird coming from a Midwesterner. So when we got married, we went on our honeymoon and we were on the coast of France in Brittany, and we had like a plate of oysters and a bottle of cider and these little like butter packets that were like wrapped packets that you'd just like get at a restaurant or whatever. But they were amazing. Like, I don't know what they were putting in. I don't know if they were putting this butter, but it was
So
in a
good.
baguette.
Did you pocket a few?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
It's, of everything. It's like half oysters in this pocket, butter in this pocket. It was a weird bus ride home. No, but that was cool. I mean, I just like think like we're always on the hunt for authentic experiences, and that's why it's so important for us to provide an authentic experience. So it's like when you get one, you're like this,
And it's important for us to travel. I mean, I think that's and leave occasionally.
Yes.
We don't leave often, but it is, like we were saying with work-life balance, you get new ideas and reinvigorated.
Yes, right. Get to
get out
experience
there
someone
and see
else's
something.
local experience.
and
Exactly.
you become a tourist, and you realize how important it is that you're nice to the tourists, because sometimes you are a tourist too, and you need to be nice.
Okay, what is your favorite cocktail?
My favorite cocktail is a rum-based cocktail. Maybe just a rum and Coke, or maybe just rum on the rocks.
All right. That's good.
Yeah, I don't know that I have like a favorite cocktail. I maybe just like I like whiskey. Neat, ideally, would be good for me. I think, or just like a old style. I'm not terribly picky.
No, when it comes to alcohol, right?
Yeah,
Just have some.
I like everything, I guess.
That's good. Okay, finally in the lightning round, what is the New Buffalo restaurant besides David's that everyone must visit when they come here?
I think if you are in Southwest Michigan and you're looking for a really awesome meal, you should go to the Southerner in Saugatuck.
Oh, okay.
If you're in New Buffalo and you can't drive to Saugatuck and you're looking for a really life-changing meal, I highly recommend the Terrace Room in the Harbor Grand Hotel. They work so hard to do things the right way, and you can tell every time you go.
Absolutely. The half chicken with like the roasted potatoes is one of my favorite meals at the Terrace Room.
Alberto Ilescas is the chef there, and like he innovates, and he doesn't even need he doesn't have any competition really. It's not like they're kind of like, I think, in a class of their own. He just does it because he cares so much. So like when they opened, they were really great, and now he was like, we could be greater. So they make most of their pastas by hand. Like their specials change all the time. They work with a ton of local farms. Like it's just
You can tell.
You can tell.
You can tell.
And that's the thing when you really why we do it all. Like in addition to we use local produce because it's sustainable. It helps build community. All this other stuff. But like really at the end of the day, it just tastes better. Like and that's good enough for us.
Right. Why bother with less than ideal produce when you could have such a great experience with something better. This has been so great. Thank you guys so much.
No worries.
Let's finish with a parting piece of guidance. I mean, what would you say to people about gathering groups, about feeding people seasonally? What would you want people to know?
I think take a risk. Buy that weird looking vegetable, take it home, covered in cheese or ranch, and it'll be fine. People will be so happy you made them something.
Yeah. And storytelling, like things just taste so much better if there's a story behind them. So like even if you can elevate something by just being like, this isn't any ordinary zucchini. This is zucchini that I bought, and I just think it's so much. People love to hear where their things come from.
Yes, this is great. Thank you guys so much.
Problem. Thanks for having us.